Hello and welcome everybody. Today I've got a new cast. It's long ago since we did the last one, but I think we were waiting for the final patch and maybe the ladder reset. We both were not that active in Wargame the last time, so yeah. Now finally we do a new one. It's a game on Hammerhead. It's a rank game after the ladder reset against hypokrass. I'm actually playing the pact side and hypokrass playing NATO. Hypokrass is a friend of me. He's a really good player, and I knew that he won against Komoromi before that game. So I was a little bit nervous, and I tried a new tactic. I think this is actually the first time I tried my new pack tactic. And yeah, by the way, I have FIFA here with me as always today. So FIFA, you can say hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to this cast. And indeed, our apologies for the delay. But as enohka mentioned, we were just waiting for the final patch and the ladder reset. And before you know it, 2 weeks have passed already, I think, or even longer.
Yeah, I think even longer. So, yeah, I will talk a little bit about my pack deployment here. So, in the last patch, we got a lot of buffs for tanks. I think, actually, at this stage, I was a little bit, or a lot of guys were had the same idea that NATO was a little bit overbuffed and pack was a little bit weaker than NATO, but yeah, the Challenger is really strong now. The AMX-32 is really strong, and there were tactics with Challengers and AMX-32s which are really nasty if you play like you played before the patch. And in this game, I decided to do something completely new, and I started with 6 heavy tanks. I have 4 TAs, 2 T-80Us, a couple of Recons, 2 Tunguskas, a little bit infantry for defending my flanks, and 2 CVs here. I tried it the first time here because the main battles are in Delta. And yeah, if you face NATO heavy tanks here, your Zalos won't do that much. They're pretty much cannon food for the Leopards or Challengers. And yeah, that's why I decided to go for the heavy armor here. And yeah, let's see how it works out, but let's have a look at hypokrass deployment first. Or FIFA, you can say a couple of words about it as well, about our deployments.
Yeah, as you mentioned, this is the final. This match was played on a final patch with the final patch,
Yeah.
and there have been some significant changes. And as enohka noted, it seems like heavy tanks have made a comeback since the ATGMs were nerfed. And looking at the build of hypokrass, the only thing noteworthy that I find is that he's actually using a Challenger 1 now. You didn't see those tanks often before the final patch. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll just wait to see how the game will develop.
Yeah, indeed. He's got an AMX-32 as well, and he actually bought it on Veteran C1. It's interesting. I just wanted to add one reason that the heavy tanks are kind of back. I think FIFA and I used heavy tanks even before the patch pretty often, but now like everybody is using heavy tanks again. Not even the ATGM got nerfed. The heavy tanks and most of the medium tanks have aiming time buffs, so they aim pretty fast and have now pretty good chance to beat ATGM in a head-on battle. And yeah, I think that's the most significant change. Yeah. Okay. As we saw, hypokrass plays a lot of AMX-32B2 medium tanks, an AMX-32 and a Challenger. And yeah, let's see how it develops. I would say I do the countdown as always, and we press play on go. So 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually quite an interesting map. I say that of all the maps, but
Yeah. That's actually one of my favorite maps. Because
yeah, what
yeah.
what I tend to do on this map if I play this map on the ladder, I tend to ignore the right part, the Charlie Echo part, where there's
Yeah.
a big forest, and you tend to get bogged down there with infantry fights and lose a lot of points. So I just sent some a little bit of infantry on some helis to screen that. But I prefer the big open ground on Delta and Juliet to have some tank engagement and force a decisive win there.
Yeah, that's exactly my same strategy basically. I just played different here in my build in the middle with 6 heavy tanks. Um, yeah, actually, I'm doing exactly what you said. I sent a couple of infantries to Charlie here, one MI-17 to Juliet. I sent one MI-17 because I see what's coming. I see here a gazelle's coming, so I'll back it up. But if like one VAB with like recon infantry is coming, or one Fuchs with Fern Spears, the MI-17 can take it down pretty easy, and he has no clue what's coming to Juliet. So that's why I sent the MI-17. Yeah. Here at Delta, I spread up my recon. As you can see, I put one UAZ here in this bush on the top of the hill. I think this is a pretty good position for recon because you can see quite a lot of both parts of Delta if you place it here. And the second one goes to the right bush until my tanks arrive, just to see what's coming here. At this stage, I wondered a little bit, I think, because I didn't see anything. In most cases, players go like I did, pretty much all into the middle or into the right side, but was not the case here. So I thought he maybe thought that I will go to Charlie as well, and was prepared for a wood fight. And at this point, I was pretty optimistic because if he prepares for a wood fight, he has a lot of infantry and stuff, and spends a lot of money for that. And yeah, actually, it's a little bit what he did. He has like this Legion FAMAS here, 4 of them I think, and most of his tanks. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you talk a bit about your build, the 6 heavy tanks you said,
Yeah.
it's quite an interesting build, and it's strong on this map. You sacrifice a lot of map control for firepower, but anything that meets you on Delta will get destroyed unless he has even more heavy tanks than you, and that's quite unlikely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something your opponent won't expect. And even if he's expecting it, it's pretty hard to face this with NATO, I think. Because, yeah, as NATO you have the Challengers, the AMX-32s, the Leopards, and of course, but the T-80s are kind of unique, especially this basic T-80s for the price. They have a lot of armor, like frontal armor 8 for 95 points. And this is what I like about them. So there's not much which actually can destroy them. Not ATGM, not other heavy tanks, so yeah, they're pretty tanky, you would say, in an RTS.
Yeah, it's not really advisable to go into a tank fight with you now. If I were a hypokrass, I would have pulled back most of my tanks and just force you to waste fuel to try to get an engagement. And I would send infantry through Juliet and Charlie to try to cut off your supply line. I would just go for a long game and try to starve you to...
Yeah, that's true. I just have to look because I think it's Krotu who's kind of spamming the forums about the new fuel efficiency of the T-80s because it got nerfed a little bit. But the T-80s are still pretty fuel efficient. I think pretty much one of the best or most fuel efficient tanks in the game or in this class. So you can travel a big distance with them before you run out of fuel actually.
Yeah, true, but I guess he could have reached Foxtrot, but he wouldn't have reached. You wouldn't have reached Golf in good order with enough operational fuel to actually engage anything. So
yeah, of course that's true, but I think it's important. You see now, I have like 400 points. He has like 80 points, and he knows that if he pulls that far back, he gets in a huge economical disadvantage. He kind of needs Foxtrot, but you're right, of course, as well.
you're no, as you said, you are now ahead like 400 points now. So That's because he lost his AMX32 and quite a few AMX30B2s.
And the Challenger now? The 4080s?
Yeah.
Go.
And as I said, that's the problem. You simply have more heavy tanks than him, so he can't really survive any encounter with you unless he can get more tanks on the field, more heavy tanks on the field. So.
Yeah, indeed. But he's reacting by calling 3 ITO carriers, the Jaguar 2. I think they got buffed a little bit in the patch as well. They're pretty viable. The ITO is of course very strong. Well, if you actually compare them to the ITV, I like that much. They might be better. Yeah, I think they are actually better than the ITV. They're pretty fast, 2 frontal armor, same price. That's interesting. Maybe I will try them. So, yeah, now he tries to get a little bit ground on the flanks. He's pushing with his gazelle cannons on both flanks. On the right side at Juliet, he has the AMX-30B2. Here is some infantry. But I react by just moving my CV from Bravo to Delta, which is 100% secured for me. So I can get a real income advantage now, because I didn't have the income advantage since he's still keeping Foxtrot. And that's actually a thing I like about that map as well. You really have a low income here, and it's interesting because a game can really be decided in the first like 5 minutes when you fight at Delta, and that forces players to play this head-on battles who usually won't do it. So
Yeah, that's true, but on the opposite side is also true. Even the Delta, the 3-point is just 1 point more than safer 2-point zones near your own base. So in theory, a player could camp around Foxtrot and try to play defensive. And even if he would give up Delta to you, it wouldn't make much of a difference, 1 point income.
yeah, that's true as well, of course. Okay, as you maybe saw, the TIDU won against the Jaguar 2 in a head-on battle, which was important, of course.
Yeah, those Jaguars are more like ambush units. You need to keep them in the forest and hope that they get a good flank.
Yeah, they actually like the Bradleys or the ITV. No big difference, but the speed and the frontal armor. Okay, at Juliet now I engaged an AMX-30B2 with some infantry. I actually missed to unload the first one here, because I think I was busy microing against this ATGM. But no, I called in my MI-17 to stun or panic or rout this AMX-30B2 that my infantry can take it out easily. Yeah, and the MI-17, the AG3 are still pretty good to panic anything.
Yeah, I think they nerfed the MI-17 a bit. They made it more expensive, I believe,
Yeah,
and
5 points.
less available.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was really necessary to nerf it a little bit, because the MI-17 for 40 points was very strong, able to kill everything. You see, the MI-17 almost killed this medium tank alone with the rockets. Now it has like 4 life points left, and yeah, it shot like half of his ammo, so it's still pretty strong.
Yeah, I read in the forums that people were wondering why in the tournament in the Wargame Cup people were using transport helis as attack helis. But that's the reason. The Mi-70s have good health and their high explosive power 3
Yeah.
rockets can do a lot of damage even to medium tanks.
Yeah, actually the Mi-17 have the same rockets like the Havoc, the heavy attacking helicopter of the pack side. The only difference is that the Mi-17 has twice as much ammo. So, yeah.
There you go, the secret of the transport heli explained.
Yeah. Alright, now the MX-30B2 at Juliet is dead. And I think I will move my CV soon. Then now I think I wait for my 2 T-64As arriving before I move my CV. Yeah.
Yeah, at this stage you're like 700 points ahead, and really there's not much you can do to lose unless you sacrifice all your T-80s into that forest next to Delta into those legions from us. But
Yeah, sure.
But you won't do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right, and but the reason why we have chosen this game to cast is that I actually managed to screw it up a little bit. You will see what happens. I won't tell you, but I think we should speed it up now because the next minutes are a little bit more about buying new recon and camping a little bit. So I do a countdown and then we speed it up to let's say 2 or 3 times.
Let's do 2 times for now.
All right. So 3, 2, 1, speed up.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, he's using his Orphe pretty good, stunning my T80, which is fighting with this Jaguar too. So this T80 died. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way you have to use artillery. You can't really kill the heavy tanks, but you can panic it and allow other units to actually kill it.
Yeah, that's actually pretty important about the artillery. To stun or shake or whatever your opponent's biggest threats.
Yeah, people have been complaining that the artillery might be a bit too effective in stunning or panicking tanks, but
Well, I'm not
I've
sure.
never been like a tank drive or anything, but I guess it would be pretty scary to be in a tank and having high explosive shells exploding all around you.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same. I think might be a little bit. Well, but somebody brought the argument that like in World War II the Tiger tank drivers were hit like 100 times by Russian or American tanks, and they still didn't panic. Well,
Actually, I read accounts that they became shell shocked.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's okay. Like it's at the moment.
yeah, that's true. And in the end, it is just a game, and it is actually a neat feature that you need to use artillery to like panic units or.
Yeah, because otherwise you can't really engage if your opponent has like that. What I have. There's no way you can engage it, even if you aren't that much in points behind as hypokrass is at the moment.
Here
Because
you use another like pro trick, giving away your supply trucks to your opponent and then killing it.
yeah, that's true. I was a little bit annoyed by this Legion from us, and I wanted to force him to pull them back a little bit, because I was a little bit worried that he has recon on my delta zone. So yeah, and it gives
Shit.
a couple of points as well, of course. Okay, now my T80 is haunting this Jaguar one. It's almost dead, but not completely. And yeah, actually, Hypcross called in a new Challenger 1 tank. Here another Jaguar is fighting. But no.
It's wasting his missiles on the UAZ.
Yeah, and my T80Us, which are now both on Veteran C1. Now the T80 is aiming at this Hammett, and the Jaguar is shooting in my flank here, and it dies. I think I was like busy with my T80Us in this moment. You have to think we are watching in 2 times speed. It's a mistake of mine, but yeah.
Yeah, at this stage you should have a bit more chip units to screen your flanks. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. But what I said is here on this map you don't have that high income, so you have like to play which with what you start. And yeah, I had a lot of heavy tanks. Oh, and I lost another T80 and my MI9. A little bit unconcentrated. You have to play with what you started, and the problem here is I had to buy like supply trucks, which are more expensive now as well, to resupply my damaged T80s and T80Us. I had to buy a new recon, which I lost and stuff. So I didn't have that much money to push. But you're right, I should have done it. Now my T80Us killed the challengers, but he just called in an Apache, and as you maybe saw, I was a little bit unconcentrated, or I don't know. I did a couple of bad mistakes now, but this is like the creme de la creme of mistakes. two Wet 1 TADUs facing an Apache in the open field, anti-air too far away, and he's got the 1000 points. Okay, the Tunguska on Veteran C1 doesn't hit anything. And now I think I screamed at this moment. I was really like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and that is a wise lesson for everyone watching. Why you should actually start with a more balanced army instead of playing like enohka.
Yeah, do you see what I actually do here? I built like what you told me. I called in like 24 Scots because I was mad that he killed my TATUs. But the Tunguska just took down this Apache and I won that. But yeah, we picked this replay. It's in the end, it's an awkward game because I did some really mean mistakes, of course. But it showed that the strategy can work pretty well. But yeah, you have to be concentrated and careful all the time, of course, because yeah, every unit you lose hurts if you play like that. And so you really have to care about your units and see that you lose as few as possible.
I think if you would use such an heavy tank start, if you use so many heavy tanks, you need to end the game quick. Because as we can see in the long run, you're actually at a disadvantage because all those expensive units are pretty vulnerable once they stand still, and you can allow your opponent to creep up the flanks and take pot shots at you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I think I played this strategy a couple of times, and friends of me as well. I won't say names because I won't tell everybody the strategy they play. But I never lost with this. And the others as well. So it can be really strong, but
It's map dependent, and I will freely admit that I would probably have lost to this the first time as well. So yeah, it is strong, especially if you don't expect it. So.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, actually Hypokrass was writing me in Steam just at the moment. Greetings to him. And yeah, you really have to have a good micro if you want to go for that, and you have to be concentrated the whole time. That's the quintessence. But yeah, in the end, it worked, and the major victory is a major victory. So the strategy is viable, but it has some vulnerable points, of course. And yeah, Hypokrass did very well in the end, sniping my units and baiting my TADUs to the Apache, but yeah, that happens.
Yeah, true.
Alright, yeah, so, some words about the patch maybe. I think the people are curious what we think about the patch.
Yeah, you can start. But since I should actually congratulate you, since you're now number one in the ranked ladder, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I played after the ladder reset. I was a little bit more. I had more fun in playing ranked, and yeah, it was like a new experience with the new patch, and a lot of people which didn't play that much ladder games before played, and so I played a couple of games. I think I played like 20 ladder games since the reset, and I have now some experience, and yeah, I think the most significant changes or buffs for me are the AIM-X30 series. Like the AIM-X30B costs now like 35 points. You get an 8.5 gun, 3 frontal armor, and an autocannon comparable to a Weasel or Marder 1. So the AIM-X30B is actually my new Marder VTS1. I really like them. They're actually a little bit too cheap, I think, but yeah. And the Hawks are pretty strong, of course. There are like a lot of people complaining at the forums that Hawk rushes are too strong. I don't think that Hawk rushes are a problem, but the Hawks are very good defensive units now. You can call in an HE Power 2 rocket pod helicopter with 48 rockets for 25 points, which is pretty good. So it's actually better than the Cobra was before the patch and cost 25 points for defensive scenarios. So it's a pretty good unit. On the pack side, you still have the MI8 TV and the MI17, so it's balanced. And next huge buff for me is the Chieftain MK10. Before the patch it cost 75 points, now it costs 65 points. It has a 9 accuracy gun for 65 points and 7 frontal armor. So it's insane. A really good medium tank. It almost counts as a heavy tank for me compared to the T80 like for this 65 points. That's ridiculous. That's a little bit slow though, but yeah, can be really strong. And yeah, the Challenger, the M8 AGS, and all the like the AMX32 are pretty strong as well. But I don't use them in my decks. I use mainly what I just told you. The Leopard 2A4 is still pretty good because it received the aiming buff again as well, and with the 10 accuracy and the 10 HP power, 10 frontal armor, and the exceptional stabilizer, it's still my choice for the heavy tank. So on the packed side, the T72s are got buffed a little bit there. Interesting if you get close with them, they can be pretty dangerous, but the accuracy is still a little bit weird. Yeah, on the packed side, you don't have that much buff. You more have some noticeable nerfs, like the Malka got more expensive, the T80 got more expensive, the T80 BV got a little bit cheaper, but the hugest thing you feel on the patch is that all your tanks you use, like the T64 and the T80s, aim faster. So it's like more an indirect buff. So I think NATO was a little bit more buffed, and that changed the meta game to more heavy stuff. It's interesting, but both sides are pretty strong, and if you play both a little bit and know what to do, I think it's actually relatively balanced at the moment.
I remember you making a thread on the forums a few days ago complaining that the marshals messed up the patch. Or was that some other enohka that I...
Yeah, no, it was me. Okay, the M8 AGS thing. I only faced such a rush once, and I know that a friend of me who was like place 2 or 3 in the ranking got rushed by something similar with the AGS, the M8 AGS. The problem with the M8 AGS is it has like 12 rate of fire, and this aiming time buff. So the AGS has, from the cannon, it has gotten the hugest buff in the patch. And if you hit tanks in bushes against an opponent advancing without proper recon, the tanks were able to shoot at the advancing tanks without the advancing tanks being able to shoot at your tanks, because they were only visible when they aimed. So this aiming circle was starting, they shot, and the advancing tanks of your opponent cancelled their aiming because they were hidden again until they reloaded and aimed them a second time. But the M8 AGS are now that fast that they will shoot before every tank you can build on the packed side is finished his first shot. So that's why you can't play Zalos anymore, for instance. The M8 AGS will just blow them up like anything. And yeah, that's actually another reason why I go for like thick heavy tanks or things like that. And if you play like that, it's balanced. But I think it only takes a while until people notice how to play against it. So there is not really a meta game created. It's still, everything is still a little bit experimental. I think at the point when a meta game is established, you really can say how the balance works. Yeah.
So you admit you were a bit hasty in...
I was a bit hasty, but yeah, I think I was a bit hasty saying that the game is balanced at the moment as well. Yeah, it's definitely the fact that it's more easy to play NATO than to play Pact. But if you know how to play Pact, you can play or do pretty good.
No, just messing around with you. But you have been quite thorough with the changes. But I will add a few notes too. I'm myself haven't played ranked that much. I've mainly played some public games. But some interesting notes for me were the nerf of the ATGMs. The reload times were increased, so it's much easier now to advance with heavy tanks, and not fear that the entire line gets blown up by ATGMs. And the supply trucks for the Soviet side, for the Pact side, the price has increased, so that's a bit more fair too. I always thought it was a bit ridiculous that Pact had such a huge advantage in supply, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
yeah, I've seen people complaining about it, but it was a bit unfair for NATO that Pact had so many cheaper supply options.
Yeah, that's maybe interesting. I used to use the T100, T813, T813, and the Colors. These two supply trucks are the same. The one was Czech and the one was East German, and they had the same price of 25 and 1,250 liters of fuel. And now I use only one of these Colossus, and on the second side I use the Ural, because if you buy two Urals, you get more fuel for 30 points than if you buy a Colossus. So I think that's important now to add the Urals again, because like for supplying artillery or something like helicopters, which is relatively safe behind your lines, you can buy the Urals because they are more cost effective. And in a long game with a lot of artillery, it actually pays out. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Just
No problem. I agree with you.
yeah.
Well, what more is there to mention? Yeah, I was pretty annoyed that they increased the price of the basic T55. But I guess you can now you now have a reason to use the East German T55 variant, since that one is still 15 points, or is even cheaper now.
No, 50 points still.
15 points still. Or you can switch to the T62. That's also a decent tank.
Yeah. I think I removed the T62s since the ATGM rocket accuracy was a little bit nerfed. And yeah, I added the East German T55s for the T62s now.
Yeah, and on a final note, I suggest people try out the MI2 Salamandra, that one with an upgraded ATGM and a decrease in price is now actually quite an interesting heli. You can use it the same way people use the Gazelle cannons as a screening force. So.
Yeah, I saw them actually quite often. But another pro hind for me, the Hawks. I mentioned the Hawks. The Cobras got a little bit more expensive, but they received the same HE power nerf. But I switched the Cobras, I removed them out of my deck, and I add the Hawks. And you can actually buy the gunship, the third variant of the Hawks, which costs 35 points, 10 points more than a Gazelle, but it has an HE2 rocket pod. I think just 13 rockets, but they still can kill like one APC or infantry squad. And they have an Vulcan. It's even more strong against helicopters than the Cobra's main gun was. And with this gunships, you can kill the Salamandras pretty easy. So yeah. And they actually fly 300 kilometers per hour. So the gunships are pretty strong for intercepting enemy helicopters.
Yeah. All right, I guess we have rambled long enough about the final patch. Actually, I think we talked longer about it than about the game, but
I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, I think maybe the viewers might be interested on our thoughts that so far. Okay.
Perhaps some final notes on the closed beta. I think you want to mention some stuff about that too.
First thing, really good news for you if you didn't hear it yet. There is no NDA for the closed beta, so we are allowed to cast and to live stream and to post screenshots and to talk about everything related to the closed beta. And since there's no NDA and nobody said me that I'm not allowed to talk about, I think the beta will be released tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure, but let's say 90%. And yeah, so maybe you will get the first Wargame Ellen Battle beta impressions of us tomorrow, or I think when you watch this stream, maybe it's even today. And yeah, some notes I read in the internal beta forum is that we will have two maps in the Ellen Battle. It's Highway to Oslo and Ostersund. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. I think it's
It's a 1v1 map. It's basically the Highway to Oslo is basically a copy of the Hell's Highway.
Hell's Highway, yeah.
And the other one, which I don't know the name of, but it's a 4v4 map. Pretty big.
yeah. So the highway to Oslo is here set to be a 2v2 map, and the Ostersund is set to be in 4v4 map. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's one game mode on the beta, it's Destruction, and we don't have the possibility to use the awesome new deck system. We have like 4 presetted decks from Eugen Systems, 4 decks for NATO, 4 decks for PAC. But yeah, I'm really curious, and I'm really looking forward to play the beta tomorrow. I really hope they will give us the keys. So, yeah. As I said, maybe you will watch the first Wargame Element Battle impressions today when you watch this video. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the replay. I hope you found our talk about the patch interesting. And yeah, I hope I see you today. Bye.
See you.
Ciao.